Playwright Anton Chekhov famously said, "Never place a loaded rifle on stage if it isn't going to go off." In other words, every detail must be relevant, and every setup should have a payoff. Thus, the narrative principle of Chekhov's gun was born. But it isn't always a gun. Chekhov's Whatever is a podcast where myself and guests watch a movie and try to predict what role Chekhov's gun will play. Welcome to Chekhov's Whatever. Hello and welcome to Chekhov's Whatever, the podcast that makes a game of movies and storytelling. I'm your host, Meg Mazeski. Here with me today to talk about the 2026 comedic horror sequel, Ready or Not 2, Here I Come, is Shane. Welcome to the podcast, Shane.
Thanks, Meg. Happy to be here.
So, Shane, I'm sure that you are a movie buff. Why don't you tell the listeners a little bit more about yourself?
Sure. I consider myself a aspiring amateur movie buff, and I'm really happy to be doing this with you. I am also consider myself an aspiring amateur historian. I do walking tours around the town that I live in. That is a huge passion of mine, and I volunteer at the local museums and work in hospitality on the side.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. And as I said at the top of the episode, we are here to talk about Ready or Not 2, Here I Come. This is the sequel to the widely acclaimed 2019 film, Ready or Not. So Ready or Not 2, the sequel, is about Grace. After surviving one deadly game, Grace and her sister Faith must now outrun four rival families competing for a powerful throne. Winner takes all. This movie stars Samara Weaving, Catherine Newton, Elijah Wood, Sarah Michelle Gellar, and David Cronenberg of all people, ?
I saw that. I was like, what? All right.
What are you doing here, David Cronenberg?
Yeah, exactly.
This movie is directed by Matt Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillette, and it was co-written by Guy Busick and R. Christopher Murphy. So this writer-director team is the same four guys who did Ready or Not, the original movie.
Yeah, super important for me.
Yes, you definitely want to see a sequel headed up by the same people, I think.
Yeah, for me, it's the same as when they go ahead with a sequel and they replace one of the actors. And it's just like I get it, but I don't like it.
I think it's a fine line because you want the sequel to deliver on everything you liked about the original, but you also don't want it to be too derivative. You still want it to bring something new to the table.
I think I'm more of an outlier in the sense of like, I'm okay a lot of the time if it's just like the first movie, but now it's longer, because if it depends on how much I like the first one, but other people say derivative, I say expansive.
Yeah, point taken. I mean, one reason why there are so many sequels and franchises is because people just want to, live in that universe. Mm-hmm. And we only have so much time in our lives. And sometimes you just want to go into a movie with a certain expectation and have that expectation fulfilled. You don't necessarily want any surprises all the time.
Yeah, and only so much time is perfect. I consider myself a wannabe weeb. But in the end, I just don't have enough time. There's so much anime out there. It's just not enough time for me to be one. If I was rich, I would be a weeb. Absolutely.
I guess I'm a recovering weeb.
Even better. Okay, that's fair.
So currently on Rotten Tomatoes, Ready or Not 2 has a 74% critics score and an 89% audience score, which is a little bit of an inversion of the original movie Ready or Not, which had a higher critic score and a lower audience score. So Shane, I know that you like horror movies. I assume that you have seen the original Ready or Not movie. Did you have any expectations going into this one?
I am a new horror fan. I've only gotten into them in the last couple of years. But I really hit the ground running with it. And yes, I saw the first one and I thought it was just straight up horror. I didn't know it was going to try the super ambitious, at least in my experience, realm of horror comedy.
Yes.
And it was great. It was great. I enjoyed it.
I really enjoyed the first Ready or Not as well. I feel like Ready or Not came at an interesting point in the movies because it came out the same year as Knives Out. Mm-hmm. So I feel like there was this brief but very impactful moment in the movie theaters, where it was like we have these big, expansive, splashy casts, and we have these darkly comedic thrillers, mysteries, horror films. So I really felt like they were of a piece and they really had their moment back in 2019. So I was eager to see in this new movie landscape what Ready or Not 2 would be like, and if it would just be like a repeat of the original or not.
Which I would have been down with. Give me repeats. I'm fine with it if I like the first one.
Also, I really like the sequel title, Ready or Not, Here I Come, because I mean, it's an obvious title, but I feel like you just have to go for that for the Now You See Me franchise. So the original movie was Now You See Me, and then it was Now You See Me 2. And then it wasn't until Now You See Me 3, which came out in 2025, like almost 10 years after the original, that they're like, oh, we'll call this one Now You See Me, Now You Don't.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, you guys really whiffed that layup on that title.
Totally.
So before we get into Ready or Not 2, Here I Come, here's a quick overview of how Chekhov's Whatever works. This is a podcast where myself and the guest watch and review a movie that's new to us. We also play a game where we try to guess what Chekhov's gun will be and how it will play out later in the movie. Chekhov's gun is a plot element that must have a setup and a payoff. That setup usually happens in Act 1, and the payoff typically comes later in Act 3. A Chekhov's gun is also typically a concrete item, action, or person rather than something symbolic or thematic. And finally, a Chekhov's gun should move the plot forward. We get 2 points if we correctly identify Chekhov's gun. We also get an additional point if we correctly guess how that Chekhov's gun will pay off. And finally, we lose 1 point if we incorrectly identify a Chekhov's gun and its role. Whoever has the most points at the end of the movie wins. Ready?
Or not.
Our opening scene picks up immediately from where the first movie ended. We see Grace, Samara Weaving, drenched in blood, smoking a cigarette outside the blazing mansion that belonged to her very recently former in-laws. So for our listeners, I feel like a very brief summary of the first film may be necessary just to follow along. So in Ready or Not, on her wedding night, Grace's wealthy new husband's family tried to kill her in a deadly game of hide and seek as part of a satanic ritual. They didn't succeed in killing her before dawn, so everyone in the family, including Grace's new husband, spontaneously exploded.
Yeah, I love that.
So dramatic.
Yeah.
Yes, per the pact they made with Mr. LaBelle, aka Belial, aka the devil himself.
I never actually made that connection, but I knew it was the devil. But I was like, oh yeah, the name. Got it.
Yes,
got
it's
that.
like it's anagrammed
Right.
of Belial. I love the ending of the first film.
Oh my God, I was screaming. It was so great. I was like, it's real, it's real. Oh, it was hilarious. I loved it.
It was such a good tease throughout the whole movie, too. You never knew for sure if there was any validity
Well,
to
yeah.
the curse.
I mean, the whole time they're like, is this bullshit? I love that they had that running through, like all the family members.
Yes.
And it's like every single one of them, I think, at one point, with the exception of the matriarch. Even the main older guy, even he at one point was like, is it? But they're always like, why risk it? Let's just kill him. And then oh my God, it was so great. I was screaming when they all started actually exploding.
Seriously, it was such a good surprise.
So good.
They literally end the movie with a bang, several bangs. And then to have this surprising, explosive ending and then to just abruptly end the movie like a minute or two after the climax on screen. It was just so impactful, so bold of a movie choice, I thought. Really, the end of that movie kind of makes the whole movie, although the rest of it is great.
I couldn't agree more. And I just want to say that the seamless transition I'm a huge fan of. It's not required for sequels at all, but I'm a huge fan of it. And you could tell, and I was listening closely, you could tell it's the exact same scene because a lot of the times they'll just reshoot it. But I was listening super closely and it was definitely the same EMT line, like the line from the EMT was identical, and I appreciated that.
It's also interesting to have it literally pick up from the first movie without any time having passed in universe, because it really colors the sequel in a very different way, because you're like, oh man,
so good.
This poor girl, like how much can someone withstand in like a 48-hour period?
Well, just real quick, did you ever see this Human Centipede?
You know, it's on my list, but I haven't brought myself to watch it yet.
I'm not going to ruin anything when I say that the Human Centipede sequel, I'm a huge fan of all of them, did something I've never experienced in a sequel for horror. It takes place in the real world, where in that world, the first one was a movie.
Oh,
So
very
now it's the
interesting.
real world, and it's a dude that's obsessed with the first movie in the real world, and it was wild. That was
Interesting.
so awesome.
Yeah, that's clever.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yes, Grace is transported to a hospital where she wakes up handcuffed to the bed with a homicide detective in her room. She is suspected of murder.
Doesn't take a dumb detective to be like, yeah, she definitely killed everyone.
When you're covered in blood that's
Yeah.
not your
And
own
there's
and an
bodies that
entire
didn't
family is
explode.
missing.
Yeah. Like, I think if all the bodies had exploded, that might have been different, right?
It would be quite a mystery for the detective.
Yeah.
They're like, there's all this blood, but no bodies.
Exactly. But the fact that a couple were left, I was like, oh, she's so going to jail. Like there's no way she wouldn't.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I have my first Chekhov's whatever guess. I'm
Oh.
guessing Chekhov's evidence bag. So the detective is holding the evidence bag and Grace briefly clocks it. And I'm thinking perhaps the game box, the card box from the first film is in the evidence bag. And I'm thinking she may in some way use this card box to draw another card. So that is my first guess. So speaking of people not believing her story or believing that she is guilty of murder, Grace's little sister, Faith, as played by Katherine Newton, arrives at the hospital as Grace's emergency contact, but it's not a happy reunion. The sisters have been estranged ever since Grace allegedly abandoned Faith. Reluctantly, Grace tells Faith what happened at the Les Domas family's mansion on her wedding night, and Faith doesn't believe her.
And when she's explaining what happened with Faith, or to Faith, she said, I played because I wanted them to be my new family. And then it does a close up on Faith where she like looks down and like is like super sad about that. And so for me, that was like, oh, okay, they're definitely gonna, like, she wants to be like Faith isn't actually mad.
Yeah, this initial scene really lays a lot of groundwork for the rest of the movie, which is like the sisterly dynamic and their relationship and the fact that Faith believes that Grace has abandoned her. So there's this book that's often cited among screenwriters. It's called Save the Cat, and it's sort of like the Bible of screenplay writing.
Okay.
And in Save the Cat, it mentions that the opening scenes should be the opposite of what the closing scenes are to show that change has occurred throughout the movie.
Yeah.
So when we have these estranged sisters and we can see that there's this tension, we know as the audience, this is like a cue to us that by the end, ideally, they will be like reconciled,
Right.
and it'll be a mirror of this opening scene. We then cut to a mysterious older man, Mr. Danforth, played by David Cronenberg.
So great.
I have to assume that David Cronenberg is a fan of Ready or Not,
It's gotta
because,
be.
he gets to choose
What
his
the heck?
projects,
Yeah,
right?
it's gotta be. It's like when the prequels were announced for Star Wars. I don't know. You might know the story. Samuel Jackson went to George Lucas and went. I'm such a huge fan. You could literally put me in a stormtrooper outfit and hide my face and put me under a table. I don't care. I just want to be in it. And please just put me in it. And sure enough, he had like one of the biggest roles. But yeah.
I mean, if I were a big movie star, I would surely be throwing my weight around in that way.
Absolutely.
I'd be like, please put me in your movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, speaking of cameos and also Star Wars cameos, Werner Herzog is in The Mandalorian.
Yes, and
TV show.
his character is so great. And he has one of the best lines. His line, he's like a meme legend now because of the I want to see the baby.
Yes,
It's so
yes.
good. Oh, it's so good. Yeah.
So Mr. Danforth has incredible geopolitical reach, but he is dying. I do have my next guess here. I'm calling it Chekhov's signet ring. So Mr. Danforth is wearing this very obvious signet ring. They have like a close-up on it. And I think perhaps it could just be symbolic of like the guy who's in charge. But I'm going to guess that it actually has secret supernatural powers, probably satanic powers. And I think Grace will get her hands on the ring and use it to banish Mr. LaBelle later in the movie. We then meet the lawyer, as played by Elijah Wood. He informs Mr. Danforth of the situation with Grace and the demise of the Les Domas family. So I just love Elijah Wood.
So good.
Anytime he pops up, I'm like, yay, it's Elijah Wood.
Couldn't agree more.
I like his performance, particularly in this movie as well. It's very
yeah.
cheeky. It's very winking. If they want to make another sequel that's about the lawyer, I would watch it.
Yeah.
Mr. Danforth enigmatically informs a few other powerful families that, quote, the ball is in play. His twin son and daughter, Titus, played by Sean Hatosi, and Ursula, played by Sarah Michelle Gellar, Buffy.
Yeah.
I just love seeing her.
Yeah.
So were you a Buffy fan? Are you
I
a
was
Buffy fan?
not. Oh, it's not because I didn't like it, though. I just was too busy watching Star Trek.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, to quote popular memes, ¿por qué no los dos?
Exactly. I just I feel like I missed a lot of shows back then just because I was just religiously always watching Star Trek. Yeah.
Well, maybe it's for the best because now you're not devastated like I am about the news that the Buffy reboot got canned before it ever got filmed.
I'm sorry for your loss.
Yes, it's a very recent development,
geez.
sadly.
Yeah, no, I get it. Also, just in the scene that you're talking about, they do the one quick thing when they first introduce Mr. Davenport, where he's watching like CNN and he calls for the ceasefire, right? And then
Yes.
and then there's the actual ceasefire within like a second, which was hilarious. So I like that a lot because it already says in the first movie they already established like they run the world literally, and it made it real. Like it's like a literally completely run the world. This guy does, like at least to a degree.
Yes, I understand why they had this scene, as you said, to illustrate just how powerful this council is and how powerful this particular person is. And I don't know if it was meant to be funny, but it did strike me as funny that he picks up the phone and he's like, okay, the ceasefire.
The amount of time that passes was hilarious. That was really, I mean, literally he puts the phone down and it's less than like 2 full seconds, less than 2 seconds. And it comes across as breaking news, and it's just so good. It was so good.
I guess when you have absolute power like that, it just works instantly.
And I just imagine that it's all fear-based, right? So they're just terrible. They absolutely have to do it immediately or their whole family's dead because these guys run the world,
Yeah, so speaking of that, the Danforth twins, they vow to win back the throne, and then they smother Mr. Danforth to death at his request.
Which I was definitely confused at when it happened.
Yes.
But then it made sense. Yeah.
I do feel like these opening scenes when he says, the ball is in play and we are introduced to these other families and all this stuff is happening kind of cryptically. I don't think it needed to be that cryptic, It was just like, I get the general gist of what is going on, but like when they do explain it, it's not like it's a big reveal and you're like, oh, cool. It's kind of like, why didn't you tell us sooner?
It was too subtle. Like, I agree with that. Yeah. I knew it was important because it was like, he like ritualistically like laid back, And then when they said why it was important, I was just like, oh, that should have been bigger.
Yeah. I feel like anytime there's exposition, it's a little bit rocky. But yeah, one of the competing family members immediately goes after Grace at the hospital. But apparently in doing so, he has jumped the gun and broken one of Mr. LaBelle's rules of the game. Thus, much like the Lado-Mas family before, he and the rest of his bloodline blows up. Faith witnesses all this, so she believes Grace now.
I appreciated that. Yeah.
Yes. But before the sisters can escape, the lawyer nabs them. So in this scene, Grace sees the evidence bag that the detective had, and already my Chekhov's whatever has not paid off because it turns out the evidence bag has her wedding gown, and she decides instead of running around in her hospital gown, she is going to put her wedding dress back on and her...
Swapping gowns.
Yeah, swapping
gowns. Yeah. First, I was super grossed out when she put it on because I was like, it's gotta be, it would be the grossest thing for me to have to do, like covered in old.
It would be so crusty, right?
So gross, and it's already tight because it's a dress, and it's like, oh my god,
it's like trying to put on a wet swimsuit, right? That hasn't
like
dried off.
Worse than that, because it's like a wet swimsuit covered in gore and like, so this was my first possible call, but then I immediately pulled back. So I was like, oh, okay, dress and the shoes. Like, okay, this might be a Chekhov's gun. I did have to look up what Chekhov's gun was, but I am fully versed at this point. And the YouTube video I watched used the Shaun of the Dead where they zoom in on the rifle early in the movie.
The Winchester rifle.
The Winchester at the Winchester. And then I was like, that was great. I'm really glad they did that because it's like, okay, I'm ready to call stuff. But then I pulled back. I was like, okay, this is a Chekhov's shoes, maybe. But then, no, it's just a callback from the previous movie. And it's not it's not going to have any like meaningful impact. So
So not an official
nah,
guess.
it wasn't. It was a guess for like a second, and I was like, no, no, no. That they're focusing on it because it's like, oh, it's the same outfit from the last one. This is a big deal. Like
Yes.
that's why they're doing it. Yeah.
And, I appreciate wanting to have an iconic look for
Oh
your
yeah.
character, so I fully understand why they wanted her back in the wedding gown. But at the same time, I did feel like the in-world justification was a little bit strained. Like you said, like, no one's going to want to put that back on. That's so
At least they
gross.
threw in the line of like, I can't operate in this hospital gown. Like, but like,
There's
there's
got to
gotta
be a
be
pair of
something.
scrubs somewhere,
There's
right?
gotta be
Yeah.
literally anything else than a
Literally
crusty
anything
old,
but that.
covered in gore and bile. Ugh. Anyway.
Right? So the lawyer kidnaps Faith and Grace, and the Council of Families convenes at the lodge at the Danforth's casino and golf course. And this is where we meet our full cast of characters. There's the El Caido family from Spain, the Jing family from China, the Rajan family from England, and of course the Danforths, whom we've already met. For the rest of this episode, I may not go out of my way to delineate or talk about these characters too much more unless necessary, because really I felt like they were very interchangeable for the most part, especially the family members that spend most of the movie just like observing what happens in the hunt. It's like all these family members that are kind of like the peanut gallery. I feel like they don't really add much
Completely
to the
agree.
film.
Every time I saw a new one, I was like, the purpose they will serve is hilarious deaths. And that's it.
Exactly.
Like humor only, like no impact to the plot.
Yeah, like no actual real like characterization or like fleshing out of these people. Yeah.
And that being said, I got super excited every time they introduced a new one because it's like, oh, it's gonna be hilarious. For this guy's gonna die in a freaking hilarious way. So yeah.
What's their horrible demise going to be? Yeah. So Glenn Weldon, who is a film critic and contributor to NPR, he described this movie as, quote, a rich jerk snuff film.
Yes, that's exactly what it is, and it's awesome.
Yeah, and I think this has kind of become a genre all its own. So,
Absolutely.
Of course, there's the first Ready or Not, there's Death of a Unicorn, The Menu, Triangle of Sadness, Get Out, They Will Kill You. Of course, this movie as well.
I saw one recently. It's the one where it's the guy that's like 11th in line for the fortune, and he ends up murdering all of his family members.
Oh, the one with Glenn Powell.
Yeah, and that one was absolutely a rich jerk snuff film, and I appreciated it.
I think this obviously speaks a lot to the sort of eat the rich climate that we live in today as Americans. So
as millennials.
Yes. And to see this like new genre of film pop up essentially. So as this genre becomes more established, it'll be interesting to see what tropes emerge and also how one of these movies does or doesn't set itself apart from other similar movies of its ilk.
Yeah. I remember the first time I realized that it's like, oh, it's like the whole society thinks this too, was when that submarine imploded.
Oh, yes.
And like the whole world was like, yeah, screw them. Like they're super hyper rich. Who cares? Like, and it's just like, oh, all right. I was just thinking that. I wasn't saying it out loud. And like everyone was saying it out loud.
Just saying the quiet part out loud.
Yeah. I was like, okay, all right. And I bet a lot of writers probably saw that and were like, oh, like let's make some money on this.
Yeah, so the appeal of these type of movies is pretty obvious, like you're saying, right? It's strangely cathartic in a certain way. And I feel like Ready or Not 2 could have been more satisfying if these villainous characters were more differentiated, because like they just all sort of like blended together for me.
Yeah.
So, it's really satisfying when someone is like really uniquely evil, like a Joffrey, in a way where like you really want to see their comeuppance,
Mm-hmm.
But I felt like all of these families in Ready or Not 2 were just very like one-dimensional, which is fine. But I feel like I would have been more satisfied if it was like, oh, and then there's that weird guy who, has 12 Porsches and is also a brony or something, just something weird where you can be like, I hate that person specifically, something like that. But
they do it with the Glenn Powell one that I can't think of the name of.
Oh, great. Maybe I should watch that one. Yeah. So Grace and Faith are also transported to the lodge, bound and gagged, and the lawyer finally explains to everyone assembled and to the audience what is going on. So it's exposition dump time. Strap in.
Yeah, I love it so much. And Elijah's doing it, and I'm like, yes, Frodo, go.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'll try to make this as brief as possible because it is a lot of lore all at once. So the lawyer is the attorney for the LaBelle organization, which is led by the council, made up of the heads of the aforementioned families. But one seat on the council stands above the rest, the high seat, which comes with a sigil of power, the ring. The high seat is now vacant in the wake of Mr. Danforth's death. Because Grace survived her wedding night, she has won the rare and dubious reward of being eligible to compete against the other families to win the high seat. Actually, she doesn't get a choice in the matter. Just like last time, she is forced to play a deadly game of hide and seek. If she can evade all the other families and survive until dawn, then she will get to claim control of the council and the world. A couple of other rules of the game: the families aren't allowed to kill each other even by accident, and if they do, LaBelle will wipe out their entire bloodline. And finally, if one of the hunters perishes, then they must be replaced by whomever is next in succession.
This is my guess. So I have Chekhov's book. So the main girl, is going to use it later to look up a rule or a loophole in order to win the game.
I think that's an excellent guess. I love that guess. And I feel like we were zeroing in on a similar thing because I kind of have an adjacent guess. They give a lot of focus to this book. So you're kind of like drawn to it. You're like, okay, what's going to like go on with this? So my focus was drawn just a little bit to the side, to the blood pen. So this is my next guess, Chekhov's blood pen. So all of these families are pricking their palms, using their own blood to sign this book to agree to the rules of the game. And I think Grace is going to use this blood pen to sneakily get someone else's blood on the pen, not her own, and use the pen to like trick this person and or LaBelle into agreeing to something that they didn't actually agree to.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. And one more thing. Grace and Faith are handcuffed together. Let the games begin. Mm-hmm. So this is where the action of the movie really starts. The girls are being hunted by the various families.
When the Shing matriarch shows up with the drone, immediately, as soon as she starts talking, I'm like, okay, this is a trap. She's just trying to get him to get to a certain spot. She's like, okay, I'm on your side. I'm not going to hurt you. And like, there's a loophole in the rules. And I was like, no, none of that's real. It's absolutely just, she's fighting Sun Tzu style, and with cunning as much as with brawn.
I did like this little drop of intrigue because it's like, oh, is she lying or is she really on their side? But regardless of her motives, it is kind of fun to have one of the competitors in the game not immediately just be trying to slaughter them. So it's I
love that. Yeah. It's the techie one. There's a techie one. I was like, yes. There's a techie rich one. And I was really hoping that this is the beginning of just shenanigans with gadgets. Just like, throwing gadgets in all directions at all times because they're unlimited rich. So
yeah, I guess the movie makers just didn't want the movie to end too fast by, having Grace get shot by a combat drone.
Yeah, no, I get that. One of my favorite things in movies is to always like give the benefit of the doubt to the canon, right? There must be an explanation. An explanation. There's a great thing that I saw a long time ago of a guy that he does what I do all the time. And there's this scene in 2001, A Space Odyssey. And there's a scene where one of the astronauts is talking to his daughter, like back on Earth. And the daughter is like, the actress is like 3 years old, so she starts slamming on the keyboard, like as they're talking to each other. And obviously that would like end the call or mess up the call. But like the way that the guy was like, no, the technology probably recognized that it's a child and then disables the keyboard, like, because that kind of thing. So I love thinking like that. Like, obviously it makes sense why they're doing what they're doing.
Yeah, no, totally. I think that a lot can be forgiven in service of the story.
Absolutely.
I don't know if you've seen this YouTube channel called Cinema Sins. It should be called Nitpicking a Movie to Death. Like, I used to enjoy Cinema Sins, but like Cinema Sins, in your example, 2001: A Space Odyssey, they had, they'd push up their figurative glasses on their nose and be like, why didn't the call end when the daughter slammed on the keyboard, you know? And it's like, well, because then the story would end, you know? So it's
Exactly.
like,
And take it a step further, if obviously it's advanced technology, it knew it was a kid. It's not going to let the kid work a keyboard. Like, yeah.
exactly. So the Danforth twins ambush the sisters in the woods, but the girls manage to stop bickering just long enough to fight off the twins together.
That when they clotheslined the male twin with the two handcuffs, right? That I felt was a callback to when the Indian brothers showed up, and one of them punches him in the chest really hard, and like they got hit in the chest really hard. I thought maybe that was going to be like a recurring thing because it's like they hit him in the chest with a clothesline. I don't know.
I liked that move because, you know, we get a little bit of visual language of the sisters working together to team up, you know. So it's like, oh, even though they're handcuffed together, like they still find a way to sort of work together reluctantly.
Mm-hmm. And then the twins, they are having an argument because they have to share the seats, or they have to choose who's going to have the seats. So that's if they win because they're twins. And Sarah Michelle Gellar, slaps her brother just like Mr. Davenport did in the beginning of the movie. And that, I thought that was a big deal when it happened in the beginning of the movie. The son wasn't like demure. The son wasn't like, oh, sorry, Dad. Like the son was angry about it. And then it hammered it home when he like overkilled him with the pillow, right? So it's like when she hit him, immediately I'm like, oh, so it's absolutely going to be a scene where Ursula is like about to kill Grace. Like I imagine like she's like strangling Grace, let's just say. And like she's about to get the seat. And then Titus is going to kill Ursula.
Oh,
and Grace is absolutely would have died otherwise. Like she was already down and out. But because of that established violence, and Titus is gonna suddenly kill Ursula out of the blue, and he's gonna go like, oh, who's the weak one now? And it's just like this classic. It was kind of tropey, but in a good way. Of like, as soon as Ursula slaps Titus, I'm like, oh, she's gonna be like, oh, I'm the one in control. I'm the smart one. He's always been the child. I'm gonna be able to control him. I'm gonna be, whatever. And then he's just gonna suddenly violently murder her and be like, aha, I was strong all along. And like that's Ursula has this like veil of confidence about her, of like, obviously I'm the better one, and it's gonna lead to her demise because she's gonna turn her back and he's just gonna kill her.
Yeah, I think that's pretty astute. And I did complain before about how I felt most of the villains were pretty interchangeable, but the movie does go out of its way to establish the twins as discrete, unique characters. And in fact, the twins' relationship with each other is a large point of the movie. And as you were mentioning, it lays a lot of groundwork and it lays a lot of breadcrumbs for what will be like the ultimate conclusion to this twins relationship, because like we do see that they resent each other. We do also see that Sarah Michelle Gellar's character Ursula, she does seem to have love for her brother and a sense of protectiveness, but she also coddles him and treats him like a child and as someone who is not capable of holding on to the power of the throne. So the movie does do a good job of establishing this tension between the siblings, and it is also a good counterpart to Grace and Faith, because we get to see how Grace and Faith's sibling relationship, how it evolves throughout the movie, in contrast to how Ursula and Titus's relationship evolves. So Ignacio El Caído shoots at the sisters with a rifle of some sort, and he blows up a gas tank, and Grace is injured by the explosion. She barely manages to escape with Faith. The sisters flee inside the Danforth's casino, where Faith patches up Grace's wounds, and they tentatively begin to patch up their relationship. So this is one of many scenes of the sisters sort of relitigating the same old argument over and over. And it's like, I get it, the sister relationship is central to this story, but I do always think it's kind of funny in a movie where people put a pause on their life or death scenario to be like, hey, remember 20 years ago? I have a bone to pick with you.
Yeah. They keep focusing on the painting of Mr. Davenport whenever they're in the casino. And that was always a recurring thing where like the camera would linger whenever they would pan past the thing. And so I just had this like brief, like, oh, it's going to be super important maybe it's gonna talk. Like, I don't know. Like, something is gonna happen where it's gonna, or there'll be like a speech that one of the twins are gonna be giving to the painting, and that's gonna distract them. And like the girl, like Grace or Faith, are gonna be able to get the drop on. It's gonna have some kind of
I
importance.
love that.
I didn't call it Chekhov's portrait, but it was. I just felt like it was
You
definitely
just
gonna
wanted
have
to
a.
call it out. I was very close to making this an official guess of mine as well, because as you said, like it's always there, it's always looming over the scene. And like in the first film, there are these hidden doors throughout the mansion that lead to like servants' entrances and stuff. And
Oh
I was like,
yeah,
oh,
like
yeah,
yeah.
maybe the paintings, like maybe there's a secret weapons cache behind there or something. So, yeah, I'm going to blame the movie for not having that have a payoff. I feel like,
Right.
it was like, oh, look at this mysterious painting, and then nothing happens.
But it is also like I was with the shoes and the dress, like it is also a callback because they kept doing it the same thing with the patriarch in the first movie. They would linger on the painting a lot. So I think that was just them
Like
copying,
another callback. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So, yes, while in the casino, the sisters also conveniently find a saw blade to cut their handcuffs.
yeah. I love it.
But unluckily for them, it's in that moment where one of the Rajan brothers discovers them. They have
Mhm.
a fight in an industrial laundry room.
Love his mask, by the way.
Oh,
Love
yeah,
it.
he's got this cool, creepy
So
mask
good.
and like this sort of like scimitar or something.
It's a kukri. It's like the
Oh,
I
okay.
might be I might be butchering the name, but it's a medieval Indian sword.
This is where your historical background is coming into play.
If I got it wrong, just edit that out. Yeah.
This was probably my favorite fight scene, or one of my favorite fight scenes in the movie. I just like an interesting backdrop for a fight. So I'm sure there's been a fight in an industrial laundry room before, but not one that I can recall. So having all this like big machinery and the rolling laundry baskets to like, shove people into and
Love
things
it.
like
Yeah.
that. And I especially enjoyed the kill in this fight scene, I suppose.
Oh
So
my God, I was screaming. I was like,
yeah.
yes, all right.
So
Yeah.
the sisters push him into one of these huge washing machines, and basically they sanitize cycle his ass to death.
It's so good.
So it's pretty gruesome, it's pretty dark, but another reason why I appreciated this so much is that in universe the sisters are also quite horrified by what they've done, but in a funny
Mhm.
way. They're like, "Oh God," because they can still hear him slowly screaming and, being clobbered to death inside the washing machine. And they're just kind of like, oh
Mhm.
shit. So
Yeah,
I
love
thought that
it.
was pretty
And
fun.
that it regularly shows apparently there are cameras everywhere, so all the other family members watching, and then it just cuts back and they're like, ah, like they're also
Yes.
horrified. It's so great. Yeah.
In the next scene, Hua Shenjing intercepts the sisters, not wanting to fight but to offer a deal. She claims that she's found a loophole in the bylaws. If Grace marries into a high council family by marrying Jing's son, then her family will get the seat and Grace will get to live. So it does seem like she is maybe telling the truth, although both of the sisters immediately say bullshit. They obviously don't believe
Hmm.
her.
Yeah, yeah.
However, there is the caveat that Grace would have to sell her soul to the devil just like the rest of them. So Grace, let's just say she declines the offer.
Once I found that, I realized it wasn't a trap when Grace was like, well, I suppose you're one of the good ones. And she immediately was like, no, absolutely not. I'm not. But it's a question of degrees.
Yes.
And that I really appreciated that. I was like, oh shit, she is absolutely sincere. Like this is a real deal.
Yes, it's not Jing who says this, but in a later scene, Ursula says, there are no good guys or bad guys, there's just the system. So that's kind of what Jing is saying as well. Like, comparatively, I'm not a bad guy. I'm just, don't hate the player, hate the game type of thing. That's sort of her appeal to Grace in this moment.
Oh, interesting. I didn't take it that way. I took it as a like I am also a bad person, but just way less that this guy is like the worst. Like it's a question of getting shot in the leg or shot in the head. Like
Hmm.
they're both bad, but I'm a much better option.
Yes. Also, I didn't make this an official Chekhov's gun guess because I think that this personally, by my definition, falls more under foreshadowing than being a Chekhov's gun. But I have to assume at this point that this loophole of marrying into the family will come back at some point. Now that Grace has the idea that this is a potential escape hatch for her.
I thought that was the beginning and the end of that part. Yeah, very astute.
So Grace does refuse Jing's offer, and in the altercation that follows, Jing inadvertently kills Ignacio. So she and her son explode.
Well, I thought because it was she had took the sword and made him kill Ignacio.
Yeah, Grace
right?
had like sort of guided Jing's hand holding the sword.
Which granted, they didn't show it on the screen. They didn't show her grabbing Jing's hand and shoving it into Ignacio. They just showed the aftermath, right, of it through his head or through his neck, and then Grace was holding on to Jing's arm. But I thought maybe that was going to be like a thing where it didn't count and they weren't going to explode because it's like who actually killed them, even by accident. Like, would it still count as by accident? Anyway, yeah.
Maybe it's like semantic. Maybe the rules were like, if they die by the hand of another family member or something. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think what Elijah Wood's character, how he worded it was, yeah, if a hunter kills another hunter even by accident. And that's pretty wide ranging.
Well, and I guess it's at the devil's whim, whatever, amuses him the most at the moment.
Nah, he's got to follow the rules more than anyone, right?
I guess so, yeah,
Yeah. The rules were at his whim, but once they're written, there's no whims here. This is boom. This is exact as it is written.
It's written in blood.
I love that. That's like one of the best angles for the movie, I think, is that it's so ordered. Like, yeah, it's chaos on the screen, but it is a world of order. It is absolutely, there are set exact rules that cover every possible situation, which is, again, not giving too much away is what makes the final scene so great. Because it's like, it's all about like, yeah, no, there is a bylaw for every possible thing that could happen.
Yeah, and if we look at other, devil lore, it does seem like once he agrees to something, I mean, he'll try to find loopholes. He'll try to trick you. But, but if he agrees to something, he's like, fine, I will give you my fiddle, you darn fiddle player.
So it's like, yes, exactly. It's like one of the things, like any type of religious-based evil entity, right? There's this like underpinning of order, I feel, that like it's about because they're not animals. I just feel like there's a combo with that, and I appreciate that this movie followed that.
Yeah, that's a good point. So Ignacio has been stabbed to death, and his daughter Francesca takes his place. Francesca, by the way, is also Grace's dead husband's former fiance.
Love that angle.
Yeah. So she has an axe to grind with Grace, or should I say a rocket launcher to grind? In this scene, shortly after Ignacio's death, Grace rifles through his pockets looking for his cigarettes because she's been jonesing for one all movie.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, his cigarettes are completely blood-drenched, but she does find a lighter.
No, they were out. I feel like she would have smoked a blood-drenched cigarette, absolutely, or at least tried to, and then she would have tried to and then thrown it down in frustration because you would have literally been impossible to light. But yeah, no, they were out. She squeezes the box and it's a paper box and it's really obvious that they're all gone. And she's like, shit.
You're right. If she's going to put on a crusty, blood-soaked wedding gown, she sure as heck is going to try to smoke a bloody cigarette.
Absolutely would have tried to smoke a bloody cigarette. And then it would have been a hilarious scene because she just would have been like, damn it! And like just throwing it down, I think they missed an opportunity there. Yeah.
But she does find a lighter, and this is my final guess, Chekhov's lighter. I will say, I feel like we're getting to the cutoff point of where it's probably too late in the movie to really introduce any new Chekhov's guns, because usually it's something that's introduced early in the movie in Act 1, and I would say we're pretty firmly in Act 2 now. However, I'm still going to make it a guess. Of course, the first movie ended with her figuratively and literally burning the place down. So I think she will also use this lighter to her advantage later to, similarly burn shit to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Faith once again confronts Grace about abandoning her. Grace moved away to New York City as soon as she turned 18 and left Faith behind with their foster parents. Grace apologizes and they reconcile. I think that overall, I enjoyed this addition of the sisterly dynamic instead of having just the single final girl. However, I didn't like that they just kept having the same argument over and over. And even that would have been okay if I felt like Faith was justified in feeling wronged. But at the end of the day, like her 18-year-old sister left and then didn't take her 15-year-old sister with her to a new city to support her and act as her caregiver. And I'm like, that's pretty reasonable, actually. Like, as a 15-year-old, sure, of course you're entitled to feel wounded and hurt. But once you become an adult, I would think that in retrospect, Faith would be like, yeah, it sucked and it made me sad, but that was too much to ask of Grace, I don't know. I just felt like Faith didn't really have a leg to stand on in her grievances.
It's a lot of ways she was still 15. It's like, I think that might have been on purpose. I kind of felt like it was on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Like, really, if you would have superimposed a 15-year-old, it would have, all the lines still would have made sense. It would have absolutely made sense for her. And I think that was deliberate of like, by her hanging out, seeing Grace again, she reverted back to when, the trauma first occurred. Right?
That makes sense.
And I think also it might have been a way for the writers to be like, oh, they could just pick up where they left off, which is obviously not how the real world works, but this is not the real world. This is the movie. Also, when they're arguing and Grace tells Faith, you were safe. Like, you wouldn't have been safe with me. I'm 18. In New York City. You were safe where you were. I thought for sure, and maybe this is just my own experience coloring my views, but I thought for sure she was going to drop this, like, no, I wasn't.
Oh,
and like, our parents were secretly evil, like, or just something, something would have just come at that moment. Like, for sure, I thought that was the whole setup for that. That would have made more sense.
I agree.
And then,
agree.
Yeah, it would have been like a whole thing, like, you never noticed, like you never cared enough to look and notice, like, how evil our parents actually were, and they were and then as soon as you left and everything went hog wild, and I was abused, or they could have done it in like a not way too dramatic way to like just say I wasn't safe. And I think that would have explained a lot.
Yeah, that would have made Faith justified in holding on to this.
Yes, exactly. That would have given her leg.
Yes, because as it stands, it's basically just like a grudge that she's holding on to.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, well, okay. The Danforth twins try to trick the sisters into thinking that they are 911 operators there to help them, but the sisters see through their ploy and they get the drop on the Danforth twins. They all start arguing and essentially trying to turn their respective siblings against each other. So basically, at this point, they can see everyone else's sort of sore spots, and they're intentionally poking them to try to turn sister against sister and brother against brother.
It's genius. Yeah, who wouldn't? I want to just point out that I thought it was lazy. I don't want to turn into cinema sins, right? But it was just like when it was the 911 call, right? And as soon as it showed the girls had saw through it, right? Got the drop on them. I was like, okay, that was lazy for them, because when it showed earlier, calling back when they first were calling, right? And it was like, yes, just come to the gate. And then it cuts back and the girls are both completely convinced. Like, that's absolutely how the scene is shot, right? That it is 911 and they're headed there. And I think that was just a lazy move by the writers, because it's like, oh, we'll just add some more tension. But they actually got the drop. Like, no, like, have them be like, oh, this is obvious.
Yes.
Like, let's turn it on them. And that's just like, I don't know, cheap shot. Like, it's a cheap shot to try to add tension, of making it deceiving, of them thinking that it's real, and which I think is like lying to the audience, and I didn't appreciate it.
Yeah, and I mean, so much of this podcast is talking about like setup versus payoff, and to what you're saying is that they presented this setup for tension, and then the payoff was like, just kidding.
And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that style. I mean, I just didn't appreciate the direct lying with the angles and stuff of like, it literally shows both of them being like, oh, okay, it's the cops. Oh, thank God. And then that's the lying part. Like, it's not actually how they were acting. They knew that it was, and yet they did this scene. Like, did you ever see the show Firefly?
Yes.
So good, right?
Yes.
You want to talk about a lifetime of pain, right? But anyway, Firefly, that was one of their fucking go-tos. was they would do this where they would make it to where like they wouldn't quite do it as overt as Ready or Not 2 did, where
Hmm.
it's just a straight up deceiving. Like it's like the writing was deceiving. I don't know if I'm making sense when I say that. Like it's not like, oh haha, I gotcha. It's like, no, you're showing us scenes in bad faith, like of them being like, oh, it's the cops. Like, no, they weren't. They weren't thinking that. Like that's a lie. Firefly did that all the time, and that I always was that was a thing with me of like, oh my god, so lazy. Like just write it to where it's actually showing genuine reactions. And it'd be one thing if like Grace didn't want to worry Faith, so Grace was going to act like it's the cops because
Hmm.
it was earlier established that Faith would go off the rails and like start screaming. Let's just say, like
Right.
if she felt like they were going to be trapped, so then that would make sense of like, but they didn't. They just lied to us.
No, I totally get what you're
Yeah.
saying, and I agree. And I do agree with you saying that it's lying to the audience, especially because there's no in-universe reason why they would be pretending to have fallen for it, exactly as you said. So like,
Ooh, it goes. This goes to show how much mental gymnastics I'm willing to do to defend the writers. Ooh, what if it's like the cameras on them,
oh, they knew there was a
right? And
security
they knew the
camera.
security cam because it was already established that they could see everything, huh?
You know?
And so they were like, "Let's play along because we're being watched." Jerry, there you go. We're
Okay,
good.
we've uncinema-sinned ourselves.
There you go. Okay, yeah.
So the sisters are fighting with the Danforth twins, and Grace gets grievously impaled in her left shoulder.
Again.
Yes, again. I do want to point out that this is the same shoulder that was
Yeah.
stabbed through by her husband, like, what, less than 24 hours ago? I'm
As
like,
soon as it happened, I was like, "Oh, the hole's already there. Oh, it's gonna hurt
yeah,
so
maybe
bad."
it just went like straight through. Yeah.
Which would hurt so bad if that happened. Like, oh my god, like as soon as it starts to be like, oh, let's start to heal. Nope, just kidding.
I know. I'm like, is this girl like Wolverine or something? She's just like,
Right?
she's like, I'm back.
Yeah. Oh my god, that would have hurt so bad though, because it's like already tender.
Yeah. The sisters flee back inside the casino to an abandoned wedding reception. They argue again, and in a huff, Faith storms out, leaving Grace by herself.
That seemed super forced, by the way.
It
Like that whole
did.
scene was cringy, and I was just like, where she just was like, "You're actually the worst person. I hate you." You know,
Yes.
I'm paraphrasing, but and it's like, really? I get it, because you're trying to do that last break apart so they can dramatically turn back around. I knew all that was coming, but it's just like, it was just weird and forced.
Totally. Francesca dons her wedding gown, never worn, and mounts up with a rocket launcher.
Yeah,
She finds Grace at the reception hall, the perfect showdown for the two brides.
so good.
Speaking of things that felt a little bit forced, I'm like, okay, like it seems a bit strained to be like, oh, I want to have dueling brides, beating each other up. And it has to be with the backdrop of a wedding reception and a DJ table and a wedding cake, so we'll have this throwaway scene way earlier in the movie when the Danforth twins like make a wedding party leave their reception, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, like I see the machinations behind this, but I'll allow it because this is probably my second favorite fight scene, I think, in the movie. It was just fun. It was silly.
It was great.
I like
Yeah.
how they pepper spray each other and they're sort
No,
of...
no, she pepper sprays her, right? And then she pepper sprays herself by accident. Like that's why, because they're fighting, and then I love that. I love this as a recurring theme ever since the beginning, Ready or Not. It's like these are just people no one trains. Like no one knows how to do anything.
Yes.
And there was this Netflix zombie show I watched years ago, and I don't even remember what it's called because it wasn't that good. But there was one thing I really appreciated was whenever there was a shootout between survivors, no one would ever hit anything ever. Like because like they were just people that like had like 9 to 5 jobs, and that's so they're just like "Pew, pew, pew, pew," and like they just have no idea what they're doing, and they're always fumbling with how to reload. Like I really appreciated that. And it's the same thing with the Ready or Nots, and I just love that. And then Shane earlier in the movie, she's like, I have no interest in getting into a punchy, slappy with you.
Yes, that was great.
It's so perfect because it's like, yeah, these are just regular people. Like no one has any experience fighting, and I love it.
I did appreciate that in this movie too, because it all made sense also in universe, because it's like if these families knew that they would have to have a fight to the death to gain control of the throne, like surely they would have been training for that, right? But it was a huge surprise that Grace survived her wedding night, and it was totally unprecedented that this situation would occur. So it made perfect sense that these rich coddled characters, you know, they're not super duper fighters.
Absolutely not. They have people do that for them. They
Yes.
all have bodyguards. Like there's no reason for any of them to ever know any self-defense ever. And I know I wouldn't if I was that rich. Like I just would pay a guy that had self-defense and follow me around, you know?
And Francesca with her rocket launcher, she has it aimed at Grace and then she shoots it behind her on accident.
I love that. And I really wanted like as soon as she's aiming straight ahead, before I realized it was backwards, my video game logic, I was like, you got to shoot at the ground in front of her. You can't just shoot right at the body. That's not how this works.
Or like earlier when Ignacio kept failing to hit them with his rifle. Similarly, I was like, aim ahead of where they're going to be. Video game logic.
Come on.
Also, girls, serpentine pattern. Serpentine pattern.
Serpentine, yeah, that's right.
So with the sisters separated, Titus attacks Faith, beats her to within an inch of her life, and uses her as leverage to lure out Grace. It is also the scene where he slaps his sister, Ursula.
And then has her realize, oh shit, now I'm the one that's scared.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought I really appreciated that Ursula, so after Titus slaps her, Ursula, much to her credit and like emotional intelligence, I guess, immediately accepts the new role. If you look, because he goes to kill Faith and she's like, Titus, stop. Like, and she like isn't angry that he just hit her. Although of course she is, but she doesn't act on it because she's like, oh, now it's like very manipulative, very conniving, where it's like you can easily shift to like this new role and then use that to your advantage as much as you can, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciated her character a lot more after that because she was able to shift and not just blow up. And then she's like, we can use her. And I just like that they did that right after he slapped her. And like she's able to still keep trying to do her best to control him, just like she was before. And she realized she was doing it wrong, you know.
I do have to give kudos to Sarah Michelle Gellar for this scene because I think a lot of what you just mentioned is conveyed through simply her facial expression. Like she doesn't say a lot in this scene, but you can see the wheels turning and you can see in her eyes this reaction she's had to her brother.
Absolutely.
So I agree. I thought that was an interesting scene as well. So Grace eventually finds a shotgun, shoots Francesca dead. So that's the end of their duel.
Also, I just want to point out, like, I was screaming, which I guess I appreciate at the TV when Grace leaves the ex-girlfriend lying there and doesn't like use this. She's literally holding the mic stand. And as she's walking out and leaving her sitting there, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, wait, why wouldn't you just bash your head in? Like,
Yes.
It's not, it's not because you want to do it, because it's like you got to eliminate the things. But then the shotgun scene, I was like, oh, they were setting that up. Like, I get it.
Yeah.
How did she get the shotgun again? Like, because I was kind of confused. It just kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah, I think she found like a security station, some sort of security guard outpost, and there were weapons being stored there.
That was just unlocked.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Bad gun safety for sure.
Yeah, I feel like I just looked up and she had a shotgun with the full bandolier.
Yes,
like,
it all happened very fast. And I mean, speaking of callbacks, essentially this was here as a callback to the first movie, right? Because in the first movie, she has that shotgun and she has the bandolier of shotgun shells. And...
Oh, yeah, okay. And this is the first time that the help intervenes. Brunella, like Titus, like just shouts, Brunella, and she just like comes out of the shadows like she's always been there. And I know the help was assisting a lot in the first movie, right? Because it's like the guy that was in charge of watching all the cameras, and then it was the big scene with the butler, But it's just I was like, wait, okay, but it just seemed weird that they waited until like Act 3 or whatever to like show that the help was helping. That just seemed weird to me that they didn't have that. They just threw that in.
It would have been better if they had introduced that concept earlier, because the help becomes quite involved in the final scene, and it's kind of like, it's kind of like, wait, where did all these people come from? So yeah, I think the movie could have benefited from introducing that a bit earlier for sure. So, armed with a shotgun now, Grace makes her way toward the lodge and the remaining rival family members. But with Titus threatening Faith at gunpoint, Grace offers to give herself up if Titus swears he will marry her, thus giving him the high seat and letting her and Faith live. So he agrees to this deal. This is one moment where we kind of have a mirror image of what the sisters' relationship was before. So Faith's whole deal with Grace was that Grace abandoned her, right? So this is the moment where Grace redeems herself. She doesn't abandon Faith. She does the opposite. She sacrifices herself to save Faith. So this is the redemption moment for the sisters. And again, later, it's kind of underscored in the final scene.
Also, I don't think this means I get points, but I was close because it's like she did use a rule
That's true.
to like, but my thing was that she was going to use the book. Like it was going to be like, oh, warrior man, like, give me the book or let me run up to it and see it. Like that's when she was going through the rooms with a shotgun. I was like, this is it. This is it. She's going to like go up to the book and be
Yes.
like, and then it's going to like her, do this like comedy thing where she just like scans really fast, but then she finds it, which is like impossible, but like that would have been the funny part. And then she's like, boom, and she confirms with the lawyer, and the lawyer's like, yeah, you can do that. And then she, boom, she wins.
I like your idea a lot better because one of my gripes with this movie is that Grace is just very reactionary and passive throughout the whole movie. Like stuff happens to her that she has to then react to. So she doesn't have a lot of agency and she doesn't have a lot of proactive choices that she makes. So I actually would have really liked it if her salvation, if she had discovered it herself. I would have liked that a lot more for sure.
It's definitely doing her character dirty by writing in that she got the idea from one of the evil guys.
From someone else, exactly. And this is me making assumptions, so maybe I shouldn't blame it on the movie. But when I saw the title was Ready or Not to Here I Come, the Here I Come part, I'm just like, okay, so this is the revenge bookend part of this, right? She's the one who's going to be coming after people this time, So I had this expectation that, frankly, I just said it for myself, but I was a little disappointed that it was, again, she's the victim, she's the prey, she has to outrun all of these hunters. Again, I was like, oh, I really thought it was going to be a revenge flick,
That would be great. Like where like she just have them all like trapped and none of them would have any weapons, right? And she would like saw them essentially. And I love that. Yeah.
Ursula approaches Grace before the wedding. She suggests that they could pull the strings together behind Titus's back. But Titus overhears, and in a fit of rage and resentment, he kills his twin sister, Ursula.
Which I kind of called, but not really, because I thought she was going to be about to kill Grace, and it would have extended out Grace's armor.
Yeah, you were close.
I was close, though, yeah.
This was also a little disappointing to me because I really thought that Ursula was going to be the big bad at the end. I thought that the final climactic showdown was going to be Grace versus Ursula, and I think I would have enjoyed that more than Grace versus Titus.
And I too thought that, and I just thought that it was going to be like clearly she's the one that's going to win, and then the last second Titus was going to be the one. Actually, I'm strong,
Totally.
Yeah.
The wedding ceremony commences at the lodge with many robed acolytes in attendance.
Gotta say, I loved her black wedding veil as soon as I saw it. I was like, yes, perfect.
I loved this costume. And in fact, I loved the entire journey, I guess the dress goes on. So in the beginning of the movie, it's already quite bloody and disheveled. And then it just gets like more drenched and redder and completely saturated. And it's almost black by the end of the movie. So having it like transition from this blackened wedding dress that was once white to now this like fully black, evil, veiled.
So good.
I loved this costume design as well. Yeah, it was great.
Also, I want to point out that at this point, I think right before this scene, Faith essentially said, like, we can still don't, like, she just one last time was like, don't do this. And Grace, like through her black veil, said, I have to, there's no other way. Right. And that was the callback from when they were arguing where she's like, I'm leaving you because there's no other way when they were kids, right?
Yes.
And for me, it was like, oh, so it was a mistake the first time she said that, or at least that's how I took the scenes of like it was a mistake for her to leave her sister in the first place. So now that's them setting up that this is going to be a mistake. Like the Grace is making the wrong call
Mm.
by getting married, and maybe setting up Ready or Not 3 because she's now the queen and she has to deal with it.
Totally. Yeah. I do think that that was one of the more successful callbacks in the movie because it really, really resonates on a, like you said, as sort of a deeper meaning going on there instead of just having characters repeat dialogue at each other, which sometimes just annoys me.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
At the wedding, the lawyer presides as officiant over the satanic nuptials and at Titus's coronation to the high seat. Grace and Titus sign their names in blood and they are wed.
Mhm.
They are officially family now.
At this point, I was like, I mean, I furiously wrote this down. Right as soon as he goes to give her the pen, right, and then it takes the time to show Faith being like, "Don't do it," like with her eyes. I mean, I furiously wrote down she's going to use the pen to kill him instead of signing it. Like she's going to
Oh,
go to sign it, and she's going to instead use it as a weapon. That's what I thought.
you were like 2 minutes off.
And that's what I put next. I went, "Oh, I was so close." Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
Titus receives the high seat and the sigil of power to go with it, but as he and the crowd are chanting, "Hail Satan" in victory, Grace, indeed, stabs Titus repeatedly in the neck with the blood pen.
I mean, she really does a thorough job.
Yeah,
It's
she
great.
really goes for it. Yeah. As Titus bleeds out, Grace takes the sigil from him and claims the throne as Titus's next in line. It's not against the rules to kill family, after all.
Yeah, which I will allow the line repeating at this point, because it's
Yes.
just it's so perfect. Yeah.
And also to your intuition about her finding some sort of bylaw, this is kind of close to that, you
Right?
know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I thought I was pretty darn close. Yeah.
Definitely. Grace commands the stunned acolytes to kneel before her, and they obey. And as her first decree as the high seat, she abdicates her position and gives up the sigil of power. This is unprecedented. The sigil and control of the world is up for grabs. Anyone who claims it before dawn will be the new de facto high seat. And I mean anyone, high council, family member, or not. And dawn is coming in just 3 minutes. So this is when the help
Yeah,
really gets
Brunella.
involved,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So good.
So Grace throws the sigil into a sacrificial goat pit and chaos ensues. It's a free-for-all. All of the acolytes fling themselves into the pit and slaughter one another for control of the ring. Dawn arrives, and with no one in possession of the sigil, all the acolytes explode,
Yeah.
fountaining out a geyser of blood from the pit.
And I thought for sure the lawyer was gonna explode, but he was gonna be okay with it. Like I thought I was gonna do this whole thing where it's like, yeah, good move, like that was perfect. But it made sense afterwards. Like the lawyer is always like never literally a part of the family, like with the exception of the Godfather, right? But it's like it made sense after the fact. But it just when it was gonna be everyone blowing up, I just assumed that it was also gonna be the lawyer, but they were gonna make it like a whole thing where he's like absolutely is okay with it, because they won. They did it.
You know, I hadn't really thought about that, but you just made me realize that I had assumed that the lawyer character was also supernatural in some way, like maybe
Oh,
like a lesser demon or something. I don't know. I just sort of got the impression that like he had been the lawyer for like eons or
7,000
something,
years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. I was thinking it might have been like that, but like when Ignacio was killed, and it shows him like casually but firmly going to hide before the explosions. Like he grabs the book and he
Hmm.
goes and he shuts the doors, right? Or he goes and he ducks behind. And then when the little kid comes in with the guns, which I also was like, this is kind of forced, but I appreciate it because of the little kid from the last movie also being evil.
Yes.
It shows it shows it really obviously like him hiding. So it's like yeah, I liked that because it brought him on the same level as everyone.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this character, and we do get one little last glimpse of him LaBelle briefly appears, but Grace and Faith are free to go. So they do, with a rescued sacrificial goat in tow. Symbolism much?
Can I just say, I really appreciated that the goat knelt when she says, "Everyone on your knees." The goat's the first one to do it. Like, if you look, I pointed and like, "Oh yeah, even the goat." Like, I love it. Like, I really appreciated that. Yeah,
I'm glad the goat got to live.
me too.
In our final scene, the sisters are finally reunited for good, and they walk away hand in hand. And they look really fucking cool while they're doing it.
And the cigarette and the bubble gum, where she's smoking the cigarette and she's doing the bubble gum. I wrote "dang" in all caps because I was like, that's kind of like a Chekhov's thing, maybe. Like, because it says, it was clearly in the beginning where it's like they're two things. Because it shows her. I totally forgotten about the bubble gum. It's her first scene as she's blowing the bubble in the elevator. You know, I get why they do it, but at the time when I wrote my note, I was like, oh, those are Chekhov stuff. I missed it.
I like this scene just for coolness factor. You know, it's not a very serious movie. And if this were real life, which obviously it isn't, I think these two horribly traumatized women would probably just be, you know, huddling in a corner somewhere. But instead, they're looking cool, smoking a cigarette, popping their bubble gum. Faith has, you know, slung this katana sword over her shoulder. And
that she just picks up like as a keepsake, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, and they've got this new pet goat of theirs or whatever. And I'm like, you know what? That's fine. That's cool. It's a cool ending shot. And I could also see it being the opening shot of the next film, potentially.
Exactly.
So I guess I will say the end, ? Maybe it will just lead into more of the franchise. So yeah, that's the end of Ready or Not 2, Here I Come. What did you think of this movie overall?
Good. I enjoyed it. It's a really cool way to do comedy horror. Yes. I suppose I was hoping it was funnier overall, but it still was pretty funny. And they have a really good system going where it's just like they can lead up and do anything they want, but the humor is how they explode or how they're killed. And I appreciate that. So yeah, it was good. I liked it. I laughed a bunch of times.
Yeah, I enjoyed it as well. And to dovetail off of what you were saying, I did think it was really fun. It could have been more fun, in my opinion. I do think it was funny. It could have been funnier. I think that most of my critiques basically stem from the same central critique, which is that I feel like it's a lot of the same of the first movie. You said this isn't necessarily a detractor for you, and I understand that. But for me, like the first movie, when the family explodes at the end, it's so unexpected. And then to have, and you can only really do that once, right? So to like rely so heavily on these exploding bodies again in the second movie, it's like, well, it's lost its shock factor. It doesn't have the same impact. So I think at that point, you need to, as filmmakers, like pivot to something else new.
Like throwing them in a washing machine.
Yes, like throwing them in a washing machine. And I think they could have had funnier dialogue as well. I noticed in this movie and in rewatching Ready or Not in preparation that a lot of sort of zingers, if you want to call them that, or a lot of the supposedly funny dialogue is just someone cursing. And like, I have nothing against cursing. Like, I do it myself, but like, you can only say fuck so many times before that also kind of loses its impact, you know? No one really has any witty dialogue, so to speak. No one's going to be leaving this movie quoting it, I don't think.
That makes perfect sense to me, yeah. I think the one time that fuck would have been awesome is if she tried to smoke the bloody cigarette and she just like throws it down and screams it. But with Ignacio missing with the rifle and all he's doing is just cursing over and over again. I do appreciate his Spanish, throwing out his Spanish cursing. That's like a little mixing it up a little bit. But yeah, I didn't think about that, and that makes perfect sense. Like, this is no Army of Darkness.
True.
Which is one of my favorite comedy horrors ever. Yeah.
I do want to end my thoughts on a good note, though. I really enjoyed Samara Weaving's performance as in the first movie. She just does such a good job of conveying like this person constantly on edge of a total mental breakdown, but then somehow like pulling it together. And
great anti-hero.
Absolutely. I like her a lot. I don't know if the inclusion of a sister character at the end of the day was totally necessary, but that being said, I also like Catherine Newton as an actress. She's, you know, had a few roles in the MCU, and I like to see more from her too.
Absolutely. Everything you just said. I think the one thing I would add is Faith's character would have been better. It would have been better if they had actually used the 15-year-old, and I think that would have been great. And then that she had like just abandoned her, let's just say. And I think it would have made it a funnier movie and like kept all of Faith's lines identical. But I do really appreciate Samara Weaving. I really appreciated her frustration, her screams. Like that's
Yes.
hard to do. Like it's hard to like scream in frustration and have it work the way that she has it work.
Hmm.
I think it is really well written, and she played it really well. And yeah, I really like the movie.
Yeah, obviously you're really pulling for her. Like you really want
Yeah,
her to win, and she does a good job of being both vulnerable and tough at the same time. So yeah, I agree.
exactly.
So it sounds like you would be on board if there were a Ready or Not 3.
Absolutely. Give me 3 through 11. And I'm not, that's not a default setting for me. There's a lot where I'm like, just let it be,
Yes.
as a story. But no, this is not one of those cases. Yeah, please. Let's get the lawyer movie.
They'll have to think of a different subtitle, though. They'll have to think of a different button to put on that one.
Nope, I can't. It was almost witty. Just throw it out there.
All right, so that's going to do it for our discussion of Ready or Not 2. Here I come. And now we'll move into the game and find out who won. So my first Chekhov's whatever was Chekhov's evidence bag. This did not have a payoff. She does get the wedding gown out of the evidence bag, but really this is just cool factor. It has nothing to do with the plot. So I am subtracting points for that one. My next guess was Chekhov's signet ring. I would say in the end, this did end up being symbolic. The person who had control of the high seat was also granted the sigil of power, the ring. Grace does get the ring in the end, but again, this is symbolic, I would say. I was imagining a more literal power behind this ring, and as I said, I guessed that she would somehow use this against Mr. LaBelle in some way. None of that happened. It didn't have that payoff, so I'm going to subtract points for that as well. The next guess was yours, Chekhov's Rulebook. As we talked about, she does use a sneaky bylaw in the end to be like, oh, we're family now, and therefore I can take over control of the throne. But in a more literal sense, she never found the rule book. She never really, through her own actions, figured out a loophole necessarily. So the
Yeah.
object of the book itself also did not end up having a payoff specifically.
Exactly. I was planning on the whole dramatic scene of her running up and throwing open the book and having her finger go down the page and
Yeah, like flipping through it and having like an aha moment, like, oh, I
exactly.
figured it out. Yes, yes.
Like as the door is barred and like they're all trying to break in, but she's just furiously trying to find the rule.
Yeah, totally.
Like that's what I was expecting or wanting.
I blame the movie, I blame the director, and as my own callback to a previous episode of mine, I blame Sam Raimi specifically.
Nice.
Listen to my Send Help episode to get the backstory on that one.
Got it.
My next guess was Chekhov's blood pen. My guess was that this pen was going to be used in order to trick someone into signing an agreement with the devil. However, Grace does use the blood pen to stab Titus to death. So this did in fact have a setup and a payoff in its own way, and I'm going to give myself partial points for that one. And finally, my last guess was Chekhov's lighter. Grace does use the lighter to light a cigarette in the end scene, but much like wearing the wedding gown, this is just for cool factor. The plot does not live or die by her having the lighter, so I'm going to subtract points for that one as well.
This was my first time understanding what Chekhov's gun is and like in the literal sense and
Mhm.
first time ever guessing. So I think that reflects of how I was a little Chekhov's gun shy
Yes.
on like making my official guesses. So yeah,
As longtime listeners to the podcast will know, I think that a throwing a spaghetti at the wall tactic is the way to win this this game.
got it.
All right, so if you'll give me just a moment to calculate the points. Beep boop beep. All right, so I have a grand total of -2 points, and Shane, You are our winner with with -1 point.
Oh my God. It's the turtle winning against the rabbit. I can't believe it. Yeah.
The throw the spaghetti at the wall method failed me. I'm betrayed.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Entirely too cautious. Paid off. Wow.
I did think this was interesting because this is not a Chekhov's gun heavy movie. I mean,
No.
I guess the blood pen, and even that, it's like, well, that's a small one. Were there
Yeah.
any that we missed? I don't think there were. I think it was all callbacks and foreshadowing.
Yeah. Every time I thought it was one, it was just a callback.
Yeah.
And consider this was the first movie, and I watched it last night, and this was the first movie I've ever watched with the ordered way to think of finding a Chekhov's gun,
Mhm.
right? So now, of course, I will know what I'm looking for in future movies and see. But I appreciate you saying that it wasn't a heavy one, because I have no frame of reference, really.
Well, I appreciate you playing the game, especially with one of the more challenging movies vis-a-vis Chekhov's gun.
Heck yeah.
So thank you so much for joining me, Shane. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, Meg.
And I hope you'll join me again some other time.
I would love to.
And thank you again for listening. If you are enjoying Chekhov's Whatever, please do give me a like and subscribe on YouTube. That really helps out my channel and it helps new listeners find me. And until next time, thanks again for listening. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Chekhov's Whatever. Go to chekhovswhatever.substack.com to follow along with the podcast. If you're enjoying the show, be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app and leave a positive review. You can also find video clips and full audio episodes on YouTube, so be sure to like and subscribe at Chekhov's Whatever. And finally, you can send email to chekhovswhateverpodcast@gmail.com. All right, let's end this show with a bang.